Okay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Martha Bardwell. I serve as lead pastor at our Savior's Lutheran Church in Minneapolis. We are here this morning because the health care of thousands of Minnesotans is currently on the line. The federal government shutdown is here, and with it, Congress is faced yet again with the choice of who they will fight for and what they will fund. A budget is a moral document. It reveals our values and our priorities. And this federal budget reveals a deeply troubling moral bankruptcy. It is morally bankrupt. It is policy violence to cut millions of families off their health care. It is morally bankrupt. It is policy violence to take food out of children's mouths and off dinner tables in order to give tax breaks to those who already have more money than they can possibly spend. The God that I follow and worship says that love of neighbor is our central calling as human beings. I do not see any love or care for our most vulnerable neighbors, for our families in these cruel cuts. I only see callousness and greed. This is not just another government shutdown. It isn't just a procedural hiccup. When most people struggle to access and afford health care, Republicans aim to pass a budget that makes the largest cuts in history to Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act. Over 62,000 Minnesotans are expected to drop private coverage, in addition to the 140,000 losing coverage through Medicaid. Those are really big numbers, and each number, each one, is a person, a human being with a unique story, with unique needs, with unique gifts. They are our siblings and our fellow congregation members and our friends. For many families, new rate increases being released for 2026 are another cruel reminder that our healthcare system is broken and will continue to fail us until elected leaders take this as seriously as they take their own health care and fix it and get our government back to running as quickly as possible. Today, we're going to hear from people about the real impacts this budget bill will have on Minnesota families now and well into the future, should these health care cuts pass. So first up, I'd like to invite T. Johnson with SEIU Healthcare Minnesota and Iowa up to speak.
Good morning, everyone. My name is T. Johnson. I have been a home health care worker for over 25 years now. Currently, I'm caring for my adult disabled daughter. She's developmentally delayed. I'm here today as a member of SEIU Healthcare Minnesota and Iowa to clearly say as possible, Republicans need to agree to roll back their cuts to our health care and end this shutdown today. The cuts they've passed, including those to Medicaid, will mean huge increases in health care costs for millions of people, and they must be rolled back. I'm here today to share my story because so many of us are facing these challenges. Because of the care I provide, my daughter is able to have the quality of life that most people take for granted. And she can be with family, a part of the community. She can also go to events. The healthcare costs and the cost increases that have been passed can mean she won't have the care she needs at home. Cuts can mean not having enough income to get her the care she needs also. She has multiple therapies she would possibly not be able to make it to. This also means she could be placed in an institute, which would break up our family. And even in the institute, the quality of care she may receive may not be what she would get at home. Again, this means breaking up families like yours. I also have gotten insurance myself through the ACA. I deal with health issues myself now, such as fibromyalgia, which comes from being a caregiver. We can't afford to see healthcare costs rise. Many of us are paycheck to paycheck. If costs go up, we can't even afford simple things, which means something has to go. Whether it's groceries, medicine, gas to go to work or appointments, utilities, a cell phone, something will suffer. It's very scary. Even $50 a month. That means something would have to change for us. Things aren't perfect right now, and we need to see improvements, but these cuts would be a snowball that would be awful for so many families. Knowing we cut health care to give tax breaks to the rich makes me feel like entire communities that are part of this population are getting dismissed as if we aren't worthy of a decent quality of life, just like you all. It makes me feel like caregivers don't matter. One day, everyone will need a caregiver. These decisions, they seem to say that our service and our dedication, our sacrifice, don't matter at all. The fact that some people will rather shut down the government than protect healthcare is not only hurtful, it's devastating. Stop the attacks on our healthcare. Stop the attacks on our families and our communities. This hurts us all. End this shutdown and fix this healthcare crisis you've created. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, T.
Thank you.
Next, we're going to hear from Gary Wertish with Minnesota Farmers Union.
Thank you, and good morning. My name is Gary Wertish. I'm grateful to be here to bring your attention, help bring attention to this fight in Washington, how it's affecting Minnesotans. I have the honor of serving as the president of the Minnesota Farmers Union, representing family farmers and rural communities around the state. We're a grassroots general farm organization that has been fighting to make life better for family farmers and others in rural Minnesota since our organization was founded in 1918. We're proud to have members in every corner of the state and across different scales and different types of production. From corn and soybean farmers to livestock to selling produce into local markets. One issue that unites us all of our members and everybody really, is the cost of health care. I think about one member who stood up at our state convention. He said if there's one thing we could do to make farming easier to help them get the next generation find a path into agriculture to ease that family budget, it would be to make health care affordable and accessible for everyone. And now we're watching those who control Congress take us in the opposite direction. They cut funding that makes care affordable, and now they're shutting down the government instead of extending the tax credits that go directly toward making coverage affordable for farmers and other working Minnesotans. It was mentioned briefly about the cuts, the Medicaid cuts in the big bill, how the effect that's going to have on everybody. And it really doesn't matter what walk of life you have or what your profession is, that is going to affect everyone. And now we're expecting significant rate increases for the coming year, making health care even less affordable and pushing some families off of their insurance entirely. I can relate how that'll relate to farmers in the rural community right now. Agriculture stuff is going through a hard time right now. We have a state mediation law or bill or law that, talking to Commissioner Peterson a few days ago, we already have more people that have filed for mediation this coming year than the last 2 years combined. We're just starting harvest. You get into the harvest, into the fall, that's when the farmers' loans, operating loans, have to be paid. But right now, the market has been destroyed due to the president's use of tariffs. So it's going to be very hard to cash flow on a market. So farmers are going to be faced with a choice. A lot of farmers are going to be faced with a choice. Buying a health care insurance policy versus making their loan payment to keep themselves out of foreclosure, or in some cases, putting food on the table. That's a hard choice, but it's being forced upon us through the actions that is coming from DC. I have a message for those in our congressional delegation. I want to thank the ones that are standing up fighting for this fight, demanding that cuts in health care be restored and keep up the fight. It's a fight that's worth fighting. You know, it is everybody. It's going to affect everybody unless you're the very, very wealthy. It won't affect them. But pretty much everybody else down the line, this is going to affect them. We all need health care. At some point in our life, we're all going to need it. In some cases, you know, some more than others. Our members across rural Minnesota are counting on your success. We can't stand by and watch people get priced out of their health care. It's a burden for those farmers, and even beyond that, our families. We know that people drop their coverage. It puts new financial pressure on hospitals, clinics, and emergency medical services. What that happens, as people don't have insurance and get preventive health care, you end up going to the emergency rooms. The costs don't just automatically disappear because somehow we don't record this stuff. The costs fall back, a lot of those costs will fall back on the counties. Then you get into rural Minnesota, the counties don't have a choice. They have to pay it. And I don't think we want to be a society that we lock the emergency doors, we don't let people in because they don't have health care. I don't think we want to go there. But especially in rural communities, that cost we pass back on to the landowners. The largest tax base in the counties, or in the rural Minnesota, is agricultural land. And the county commissioners, their only choice to raise revenues is raise property taxes. So the farmers are going to be, a lot of this is going to be hit back, the emergency costs are going to hit back on the local taxpayers. So there again, it's going to hit everybody. The shutdown comes as farmers begin to harvest. They need to know now they can count on not only USDA, but other agencies. The last thing we need now is more uncertainty. We have enough uncertainty, I mentioned briefly, due to the tariffs and the president's love of tariffs, I guess. You know, making sure farmers and others can afford health care shouldn't be a partisan issue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gary. And next we will hear from Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison.
Thanks everybody for coming today. Definitely appreciate you being here, raising our voices. Let me tell you, I was in Congress for 12 years, and I got familiar with a term known as reconciliation. And that means it's a special rule where you basically can pass a bill, a funding bill with just a simple majority. So the big ugly bill, one big ugly bill that just passed last summer, which did things like cut tax credits for the Affordable Care Act, imposed devastating Medicaid cuts and eligibility, and also reduced other costs as well. This particular bill that did these things this summer and gave massive tax breaks to the richest people in our country, the top 10th of 1%, they did that on reconciliation. All they needed is a simple majority to get that through. Now, here we are in October, and we're at the 11th hour. We're past the 11th hour. We're at the 12:05 now. And Congress needs 60. Senate needs 60 people to pass the bill. So what actually happened is Donald Trump used reconciliation to pass an ugly bill, and now is trying to, I don't know, pass it, get a rubber stamp to extend it into the future. This is wrong. It's unfair. It obviously will impose devastating cuts. And what I really hope is that it wakes people up to what's going on in our nation right now. That when Donald Trump was inaugurated and had those billionaires sitting right behind him, that he was sending a signal to everybody in the United States is that is who he was going to rule in favor of. This bill that he passed this summer shows it. And the moment we're in right now, when Americans and Minnesotans are facing devastating cuts to their health care, shows it even clearer. We know what they're doing. The question is, how are we going to respond? And I hope what we do is we lift up our voices and we say, no, we demand, we insist that we fund health care, the Affordable Care Act subsidy, and also the Medicaid cuts be restored. And that Republicans come back to the table and that we pass a bill that has some level of compassion and concern for the most vulnerable people. So defend the Affordable Care Act, stop the illegal and unfair cuts to funding health care programs, and restore clinical public health research dollars. And let's do it right away. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney General. And I think now we'll turn to questions from the press.
Mr. Attorney General, you've used the courts to fight back.
Sure
you
have.
On any of this, and will you?
Well, let me tell you, we absolutely, we filed nearly 40 cases so far to hold the federal government accountable. And because we filed those cases, we've returned literally billions of dollars back to Minnesota that were going to be cut off. But we are limited by the rules. And when Congress passes a law, that presents a challenge for someone like me, because in the past, and what I generally do is I say the president has exceeded his authority by making decisions which Congress has already made in violation of those decisions. So Congress makes funding decisions, and the president comes back and says, no, we're not doing that. That gives me the basis of a lawsuit. Now I have standing because he's violated the law. But it was Congress that passed the big ugly bill. And so right now, we need Congress to step up and negotiate fairly and in good faith to restore these Medicaid cuts and these Affordable Care Act eligibility rules. So we will be there where we have standing to do so, but we don't have standing on every single thing. And this shutdown is something that we can't sue our way out of. Congress has to come back and deal with it.
Do you have any standing on some of the union rights of permanent
Yes.
jobs, and will you file suit on that?
Well, absolutely. Let me tell you, we are very concerned about how the president has impacted labor relations, and we have filed amicus briefs and direct lawsuits on these matters. But again, when you're talking about congressional action and what he wants to do to take advantage of a shutdown to lay off workers, we will absolutely explore our legal remedies here. But again, I'm going to say, Congress has to step up to the plate and negotiate. And I'm hoping that Minnesotans call their legislators, Republicans and Democrats, and tell them, get back to the table and negotiate. Of course, the truth is, it's not the Democrats who won't negotiate. They're the ones asking to negotiate. That's not a partisan statement. That's a statement of fact. So thank you for your question.
Any other questions?
Gary, what are you hearing from your members in greater Minnesota here right now? Because one of the things here that in the last few days that we've learned here is that Medicare will no longer be covering telehealth for seniors here.
I've heard that just recently from a number of members on that, because we have a lot, Medicare is, I forget the exact percentage, but there's a large percentage of people on that, accessing it. And it's enough uncertainty in the world right now. The farmer margins are so negative right now, so it raises that level of concern even higher, and if you're making money, you can ride through these things. But right now, the farmers are losing money. The vast majority are losing money. So it's very concerning. The mental health issue has been, that's very large. We don't have enough, the state does what they can, but really we need more mental health providers and take that a little more seriously too. But a lot of uncertainty right now, and right now we don't need that. And, the health, throwing the low margins on your farming operation, you throw the health care costs on top of it and loss of Medicare and various stuff like that. It's very alarming. We went through the 80s farm crisis, and this is potentially setting out to be a lot worse.
That's going to be my next question here is, we've seen this before here in Minnesota here. Where do we stand now?
The concern I hear for those of us that have lived through the 80s this is potentially going to be a lot worse. I mean, a lot of it is through the higher cost of capital, the higher cost of running an operation, and your inputs and your family living. Everything costs are so much higher. So it puts you in, puts you in a squeeze very quickly, and it's hard to get out of that. But no, those that haven't gone through it yet, they have the uncertainty. They don't know. But those of us that have experienced it, it was not a good time.
Gary, you said markets are destroyed because of tariffs. Give us the latest on that. We've heard not a bean sold yet. Can you assess some of that right now?
Yeah, obviously the soybeans is the one that gets the most attention because China is the #1 buyer of soybeans in the world, and they still have not bought not a bean yet from the United States. When the president, in his first term, when he started the trade war, at that time, the United States was the largest exporter of soybeans to China. We are not anymore. Brazil is. We've lost that. We lost a good percentage of that market, and it's encouraged Brazil to. And China has been investing in infrastructure in Brazil, so they're putting more acres in the ground. Those acres aren't disappearing. Just recently, the president gave the $20 billion to Argentina. The next day, Argentina sold a number of shiploads of soybeans to China. I guess if we have money to give Argentina, I think we have money to take care of our own. And, and my fear is, this is a bigger issue. The use of tariffs. I think we all can agree targeted tariffs have their place, but just a blanket tariff across the world, basically, all the countries, that is causing long-term damage. And that is my concern is even if the government rolls out a payment to the farmers, which they need, there's no doubt. But there's other sectors of our economy that need that too. And that doesn't, the destroying, the damage he's doing to our long-term trading relationships, those markets aren't coming back. We need the markets back, and the longer this goes on, they make references to doing these trade frameworks, but there's no details. In some of the frameworks, I think it was Taiwan, as Secretary Rollins made the comment that made these big sales to Taiwan. That's sales that are already on the books. So a lot of it is about making headlines without solutions, and that's frustrating.
Have you lost soybean farmers yet, and do you expect to lose? It's a big part of Minnesota's ag economy.
I think you're going to see more consolidation. I have talked to some bankers, and the bankers are concerned. They want to help. They want to rewrite, but they're concerned they're going to get to a point that they won't be able to rewrite the farmers' operating loans, a certain number of them. So, yeah, this is going to, there's a few that probably won't make it, and that's, directly as a result of it. Farming has always been a challenge, but we don't need our government stepping in the way, and that's really what's happened this time.
Have you heard anything from the Trump administration that suggests they might change course, or are they sort of all in on?
They're all in on the tariffs. You keep hearing, now they're talking about taking money out of the tariff revenue to pay to the farmers. And the country's getting rich, according to the president's terms, but farmers aren't getting rich. Even if, and like I said earlier, even if we get a payment, it doesn't replace what we're losing. And that's long-term damage. The reconciliation bill had some improvements to the commodity title, which, the farmers liked, and it helped a certain amount of farmers, but the cuts in the long-term damage is going to come back and bite them.
That's all the time that we have this morning. Thank you, members of the press. Thank you to all of our speakers.
Just a quick word to press. Cassandra Bellew, who was on the speaker sheet, is now here and would be happy to speak with you if you'd like to have an interview with her. Thanks.